Hey guys, it's Shaylin and I'm here today with another writing video. So today I am doing my yearly wrap-up video. I'm currently on a little winter holiday. I'm at a cabin. I tried my best to set up this cute little background for you with the ocean and everything, but I am filming this on my phone. I realized that I wasn't gonna have a chance to film this until potentially like late January. By that point, it's so irrelevant. So join me today as I wrap up the previous year and talk about my writing goals for 2023. So I actually didn't have any writing goals. I was dealing with a really bad writing burnout that started, well, it wasn't a writing burnout, that's the thing. It was just a burnout. I was not even burned out from writing, but it was affecting my writing. I really struggled to write throughout the second half of 2021. And it was only until maybe like April or May of this year where I felt like I actually got my energy back and started to produce a lot and felt like I was kind of myself creatively again. This is a big editing year for me, so I'm gonna start this video by doing my little writing wrap up. I've done this for the past few years where I just talk about everything I worked on and the word counts and talk about like how many words I wrote in the year. I really just do this out of curiosity because I find it interesting, but I normally don't track or make goals for my writing based on word count. I think it's really important to acknowledge that how many words you write is honestly not even really that relative to your productivity. Tracking word count can really only accurately track your first draft, and so much work goes into creating a work besides just the first draft. This total is really just for curiosity's sake. It's because I'm curious to see and it's fun to compare. But I've really tried to divorce word count from productivity. Maybe I'm writing fewer words than I used to, but those words are going through like rounds of revision and really getting honed. So the word counts here are kind of pointless. This is just for fun and to talk about all the things that I wrote this year. So let's start with novels. So we'll start with Honey Vinegar. This has been a project that I've been working on for 4 years. So I started the first draft in the fall of 2018 and I finished the first draft in the spring of 2020. Spent the past 2 years editing it. I actually did 5 drafts of Honey Vinegar this year. You know, as you get later into the book, the drafts take less time. I really developed a lot of confidence in my ability as an editor from doing so many drafts of this book. I can't really tell you how many words I wrote across that, you know, because you cut words, you add words. I can only tell you the difference is 2,698 words. You know, 2,700 words feels like nothing for something that I put so much time into, but 5 drafts plus 2,700 words is what we'll call for that one. So then Holding a Ghost. Holding a Ghost is another novel project that I finished last year and I started revising it this year. I hadn't started revising it. So I was doing pretty big edits on this book, like the initial developmental edits. I did 3 drafts of Holding a Ghost. And my word count, again, I probably wrote way more than this number, but I also cut a lot of stuff because I was adding a lot. Like there was a lot of new content that I added, but I just didn't have the time to go through my outline and check all of the chapters that were new and then like add them up. So just doing the difference from the draft, which is 8,656 words. It was more than that, but I also cut a lot. And you know what? Cutting words is just as impressive as writing them, to be honest. Sometimes it's even more impressive, I gotta say. Sometimes it's more important. So my main drafting project was Saltbirds. This is my new novel that I'm currently drafting. I had written the first 8,000 words slowly over a span of like a year. And then I actually started drafting the book in like late September or October. Really just worked on it through like October and November, but managed to write 32,546 words, which is really great for me. And I feel like I'm learning that I can write a book a lot faster than maybe I thought. You know, I think Honey Vinegar took so long that I think I was using that as my bar for expectation that the first draft will take me a year and a half. But I'm really starting to realize that in terms of active drafting time, I probably only need 4 to 5 months to draft a book, probably with a break in the middle, so I don't burn myself out and to do some revision. I'm really impressed with that amount of progress. I really struggled with this book. If you watch that saga, I really struggled with this book when I was actually trying to get the ball rolling with it. You know, when I look at that number of 32,000 words, I see a lot of perseverance and struggle. And then I also see that moment where things clicked and the book started to really work. And I'm really happy with how the project is turning out at this point. So that's something that I'm, you know, considering that that's like 32,000 words over like 2 months of work. Basically 2 months of work, October, November, that's really impressive to me. shows that I can draft a book a lot faster, and that I wrote a lot of books when I was younger. And then I took a few years off because I was in school and there just wasn't the time to write personal projects. And then I started novels again with Honey Vinegar in 2018, and I feel like it just shows that now I'm on my third novel since I kind of came back to writing novels, and I've clearly gotten really comfortable with my process and I can draft a lot faster than I thought I could, which is cool. I also worked a little bit on one of my personal projects. So I'm writing a personal project fantasy series called Where We Seek Dawn. I work on this pretty sporadically, basically just like every few months I'll work on it for 2 weeks. It writes really fast because it's a personal project, and the way I'm writing it, the pacing is like extremely quick. So I wrote 15,134 words of that, which is pretty good because that was like probably 3 weeks in total of the year that I was working on that. It's like my break project. And then a little secret project that I've never talked about, but there's barely any words to count. I actually started working on another personal project. I think it's gonna be a personal project. We'll see. I'll talk about it in an upcoming writing update in probably a month or two. Because when I have a title, I don't have a title yet, but it's actually a little fantasy novella. So I just started that, but I don't think it's gonna be very long. For total, for the year, for novels, I wrote 61,304 words, which I think is actually pretty good. Most of that was self-words, which just happened in like 2 months towards the end of the year. So going into short fiction, coming into the year, I'd had a rough go with short fiction. The previous year, I'd like written one story basically, and I felt like I just wasn't getting ideas for short stories, and I think I really rekindled my relationship with short fiction this year. There was a point where I think I just all at once got 4 ideas for short stories after having not had any for like a year and a half. You know, I didn't complete all of those ideas, but I feel like I've really gotten back into short fiction. So the first short story I wrote was a flash fiction called Daughter of a King, which was 742 words. And then I wrote a short story, my first full story in a really long time, called You Know Where Your Body Is Buried, which was 4,673 words. Then I wrote another completed short story called Landline, which was 2,411 words. And then I also have 2 incomplete short stories, one which I plan on trying to finish and one which I've kind of put aside. So one of them was 2,150 words and one was 1,614 words for a total of 11,590 words. I did a little bit of screenwriting this year. I adapted the beginning of Honey Vinegar to a TV pilot. That was 3,787 words. And then I also started co-writing a TV show with my roommate. We mostly just like planned that, but we did start the very beginning, 1,013 words. I also wrote, finally, 2 poems this year, which is honestly kind of huge for me. A few years ago, I was really getting into poetry and I was writing a lot of poetry, and then I just really started struggling I wasn't getting ideas for poems. So the fact that I wrote 2 poems this year, I know is barely anything, but to me, it feels like a big accomplishment because I think they're the 2 best poems I've ever written. I wrote those both quite near the end of the year. One of them I started like in February and finally wrapped up near the end of the year, and the other I wrote just a couple weeks ago. So those only total 603 words. So in total, I wrote 78,297 words, which honestly is pretty good. It's more than last year, and considering that the vast majority of the year I was not actively drafting a novel other than my personal project, I was just doing revision. I didn't start like drafting a novel until October. That's a lot more than I even would have expected. So I'm really pleased with the amount of work that I did this year, to be honest. I didn't have goals coming into the year because I just felt like I needed a break from that, and I was too burned out to have goals, and I just wanted to see what I could accomplish. I wanted to write what I decided I needed to write in the moment rather than basing it around goals, and I think it worked out really well. I think this proved to me that I don't need the motivation of a goal to make myself write, to make myself be productive. So in terms of publication, I published 4 pieces this year. The first 2 flash fictions, Daughter of a King and After Hours, those were both published in Vagabond City Lit. I also published a short story in The Common called How to Slaughter, and then I published a short story in the Thames Review, Tabula Rasa. All 4 of those are online publications, so you can read all of them for free. None of them are behind a paywall, so they're all linked in the description. I also got 2 award noms. After Hours was nominated for Best of the Net, and Daughter of a King was nominated for the Pushcart Prize. My main publication news is I signed with an agent this year. If you want to see my whole agenting story, I do have a video on it, so I'll leave a link to that as well. You know, I was slightly disappointed with how little I published this year. I think it's been a bit slow for me with short fiction. And I think it's because in 2020, I had an amazing publishing year where I published like six stories. And I think having slowed down a little from that, it feels like I'm not doing enough. But I think part of that is also because I don't have as many pieces to submit because I haven't really been writing a lot of new short fiction. So my reading goal was 50 books. I don't actually know. I mean, I'm probably going to read a couple more before the end is over. But as of now, on the 27th, I've read 94 books. So the most, actually, this is my best reading year ever. This is the most I've ever read in a year. The fact that I will probably read like 95, 96, 97 books is wild. I will pop up how many books I end up reading by the end of the year. So now I just wanted to talk about my 2023 writing goals. I've decided to go back to goals for 2023 because, you know, not having goals was great. I think I do well with them and without them. I have 3 goals, 3 writing goals for the year. For my policy for writing goals is I like to just identify the most important things for me. It doesn't mean this is all I'm gonna do, but I really don't like to include fluff goals. I really like to just include the most important things, like my top priority things. And I feel that these are very realistic goals. It is a little tricky because there are 2 big unknown factors in my life that I'm not gonna talk about because they're unknown factors. 3 kind of actually unknown factors that could dramatically change my life. So it's a little hard to make goals this year. There was another one that I wanted to include, but I was like, I don't know if I'll have the time. I don't really know. I've just chosen 3 goals and I think that these are fairly achievable things. I got out of a really bad burnout this year. I felt like I finally healed from this really deep burnout. And so I feel like I'm in a place where I have a lot that I want to do and I have the energy to do it and I want to be creating. I want to be creating a lot, actually. I feel like writing is something that I've had a lot of energy for and I have so much that I want to do. And that's coming out of a period of a time where I didn't have the energy to write anything and I wasn't getting ideas. And so I feel like I've caught up. I've really healed from that. I feel like I'm kind of at peak creative capacity right now. And so I've decided to set some goals for the year because these are things that I'd really like to do. They're very important to me. They feel very realistic and manageable as well. There was one other one that I didn't include because I wasn't sure if I would have the time. So I really tried to keep it to no fluff goals, just the 3 things that I would like to do. First of all, I'd like to finish the first draft of Saltbirds. I am halfway through this draft and I think that to get this done, I feel very confident that I can do this. And due to one of the unknown factors, it's very important for me that I get this book done this year. I didn't include this as part of my goal, but I would like to do some developmental editing work on it, but also really the priority for me is to just get the first draft done. Second of all is I would like to get Holding a Ghost ready for submission. So meaning I would like to complete the edits on it. I think I did really good work on this book in 2022. I think I really polished it. I think I did a lot of the big developmental changes. There are a few things that are messy that I know I need to fix, but I do believe that I've done that initial big edit, which is, you know, the most intimidating part. I would like to get this book ready to be going on submission within the year. And I do believe that that is realistic because I think it probably just needs a couple more drafts and that the drafts of this book are pretty quick to do because it's a shorter book. I would just really like to have that novel complete and be like, this is a complete book. It is ready to go on sub. And then my final writing goal is I would like to write 3 short stories. I feel like I'm getting back into short fiction, but I don't have much to submit right now. And I have a story that I have started that I just need to complete it really. And then I also have like 2 ideas for short stories that I feel like once I'm done that one, I can start working on. And so I do think that it's just a matter of like finding the time. Short stories are tricky, you know, it's like you never know with a short story. Either you'll sit down and you'll write it in like a couple days and it'll be really easy, or you'll be chipping away at the first draft for months and months and months. And it's like, this is 4,000 words, why is it so hard? You never really know. I think they're tricky little creatures, but I would like to write 3 of them this year. And I think that that is realistic considering that there were years that I wrote like 8 short stories or something. I think 3 as a minimum feels like a good ballpark. Finally, I just want to talk about my reading goal. I've been setting my reading goal as 50 books and I've easily surpassed it. Like I almost read 100 books this year. So I'm gonna up my game a little and my reading goal is gonna be 75 books. So that's it for my yearly writing wrap up. I'm very pleased with what I accomplished this year. I have big hopes, dreams, and plans for next year for what I would like to do and where I would like to see my career going. Some of it is out of my control, so these are just goals that are in my control. Tell me what you wrote this year. I'd just like to hear what you would think your biggest accomplishment of the year is, or what you're most proud of that you accomplished this year. And even if that thing is like that you took a break, like that could be a huge accomplishment, you know? I think one thing that was an accomplishment for me this year was that I let myself recover from this really bad burnout. And now I'm at a place where like I have that energy again. So it's really exciting. So love to hear just how your year went and what your goals are for the coming year. Thanks you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you in another video. Bye.